Hey, welcome to the show. Today we're talking about marketing metrics and how to feel confident in the success of your marketing campaigns. Stick around, hope you like it. So today we are talking about marketing metrics. Ooh, fun, right? These days, digital marketing and social media is a little bit like the Matrix. There's so much going on in this alternate reality online, and so many of our programs are dependent on how we represent ourselves online. But measuring the success of those campaigns and the tactics we're using and all the different approaches we can take, measuring the success of those approaches can prove difficult or at least a little confusing. The question I get a lot these days is, how do I measure the success of my digital campaigns? And there's no easy answer long term, but I think we all know the short term answer. But let's step back a little bit, because I think what we struggle to understand is what's real versus what is illusion within our programs. Things like, do likes matter? Do clicks matter? Do the follower counts of our social channels matter? Does the cost per click or engagement matter? How many seconds does it take till it actually sinks in with the consumer? Are they just scrolling past this in the feed? How do you know that you're doing what you can to really grab your customers' attention? I think there are some solutions there, but let's start with that simple question. How do you measure social and digital media marketing success? It's a big question, and that comes up a lot. I've seen clients at small businesses and at big brands all struggle to feel confident in the effectiveness of their marketing and in its measurement. Truth is, I think we all know the first answer, the simple answer to the question, but feel compelled to dig deeper because we know that it's not enough. You've all heard that the tools that you are using to measure success are out there. You know what a lot of them are. You're already using them, I'm sure, for a lot of you. You already know what the key performance indicators are that you should look at. You know what the benchmarks are, you know what the metrics are, but we still have these questions, right? So I think the truth is that we all know the answers to the initial questions, but the problem is that I think a lot of the time we're actually asking the wrong questions. So yeah, the truth is we all know the answer to a lot of the initial questions around the metrics we're using that are right, but the problem is that a lot of the time these are the wrong questions to ask to begin with. Before I elaborate on that a little bit, let me take a step back, give you a simple example and a complex example that demonstrate why it's the wrong question. So think about imaginary widget client number one. Their goal is to increase sales. I mean, how many of you have that same goal? It's pretty much everybody, isn't it? It's all boils down to how much of your product or service can you deliver to your customer and how do you increase that? Yeah, that's literally everyone's goal. And guess what the key performance indicator is? You guessed it, sales. Every time we try to make it complicated, what really matters is sales, because you could say, okay, all these other metrics are doing well, but I'm not happy because I'm still not getting the sales I was looking for. Well, guess what? If that's what matters, then that's your key metric. There's a lot of levers you can pull along the way to help increase sales. But if the question is, what do I measure performance on? It's sales. Because you could succeed in every other metric, but if your sales are failing or not turning around or not where you want them to be, then there's still more that you need to change to make your programs deliver what you want them to deliver. Imaginary client number two. They tell you that or you all say, this is my business, and what I want to happen is more people to know about me. I want more brand awareness, as they say. I want more of the customers that do know about me to put me in their top consideration set, their top 1, 2, or 3 places that they go to go for this service or product. You want to be high on that list and in their realm of choice. You want them to choose you. You actually want them to say, this is my favorite and this is the one I want to go to. You want them to act today. You want them to say, now I have motivation to go. I want to purchase this today. You want to have them to have that sense of urgency. And then after they buy, you want them to be loyal and come back and be advocates and to tell other customers about their experience and how your products and your business are right for their friends. Those are all complicated goals. You might think that all of these could create questions about what your actual metric should be that measures success. But I'll tell you what, at the end of the day, as many people I've worked with have all boiled down to the same goal. Sales. Sales is the indicator of success. Again, the rest of these things that we say are goals are actually just levers that help us deliver against the final metric. So you look to those other tools as guideposts of where you could possibly improve your performance. Maybe you do need more people to know about you to succeed. Maybe you do need a better story to get people to think about you as the reason that you're the right business for them. Maybe you need a better marketing message that resonates so that your customers know that right now is the time to buy. Maybe you need a better in-store or product experience so that customer wants to tell their friends about it. Maybe you need a better tool for getting them to talk about it and share. It makes it easy for them to pass that referral along. Maybe there's a lot of things you need to change with your business. But when we talk about the metric of success, it's always going to be sales if that's the business we're in, is providing that service. We're all in sales a little bit, is the saying we hear a lot, and it's true. So let's dive a little deeper. Yeah, there's plenty of tools and research companies and models to help us figure out if these metrics are being hit each month, but for some reason, with all this amazing information, we still can't turn a failing company into a winning company. We can't even keep a winning company winning with any level of confidence for the most part, because so much is changing every day in marketing, in the competitive space, and new competitors are sprouting up every day. The internet has made it very easy for people to enter markets and create new competition for us. So what's more interesting is that smaller companies sometimes are too busy fixing their company to even think about or invest in marketing, or they worry about doing it right so they don't start in the first place. Bigger companies tend to have the opposite problem. A lot of the time they are too big to change anything in the company that matters to keep them relevant. They've already started down a path. It's a lot of politics, a lot of working parts. It's hard to shift a business towards ideas, towards testing ideas that might actually make a difference. Yet they look to marketing a lot of the time to save the day. And that's why I believe you see so much CMO turnover. Their tenures are ridiculous, under 3 years a lot of the time. So maybe we, instead of pointing the blame at marketing, we got to start figuring out what we can actually change in our business to be successful. Unfortunately, the ad agencies and marketing organizations are rewarded for small incremental revisions and rebuked a lot of the time for risk-taking ideas. Or they can't be a champion of idea because they know that it's going to fall on deaf ears. Now, I think when you look at companies that continue to make the same mistakes, it's easy to want to blame the management team, the executives. I actually think you typically have a lot of the right people in place, and they are passionate about the business. They are intelligent. They do know what they're doing, but often they are misdirected in terms of their attention. A lot of teams are focusing on the wrong things. So what do I mean by that? Well, I've worked with some amazing people, amazing minds that were the heads of ad agencies, amazing CMOs, amazing directors of marketing that really had their head on straight, been around the block, smart as a whip, knew what they were doing. And I've seen that brain power exists at a lot of levels, top to bottom. But I've also seen the culture of publicly held companies especially is defensive in nature. They've succeeded and they've used a formula to get somewhere, and they can't change that formula. They have to rely on what historically has worked. And they're very reticent to change and to look for a new formula because that's worked for so long. But what's worked to get us here usually won't work to get us to that next step. And that limits the true powers of the brands and the marketing. So let's stop blaming the marketing teams. This is a legacy problem because you'll notice the disruptive businesses that are in the middle, they've gotten past the point of starting. They're not quite yet big and owned and publicly held. They're usually driven by one owner or CEO that has the power to make decisions. They are nimble enough to grow businesses what seems like overnight, obviously a few years in the making, but literally disruptive companies that are changing industries. What is common about them is they are not held back by the legacy of what's worked in the past and aren't answering to a larger group of shareholders that keep them from moving the business and taking risks. So let's get back to the question at hand. What's the right question for figuring out, is my marketing working? Is it effective? Is there a way to measure my online performance that actually speaks to a successful campaign? For this, I turn to my favorite quote from the original Matrix movie. Do not try and bend the spoon. That's impossible. Instead, only try to realize the truth. There is no spoon. Then you will see it's not the spoon that bends, it is only yourself. Yes, there is a right question, or even many right questions that can lead to better digital performance, better marketing performance, better sales performance, overall success. A friend was asking the question, what's the better judge of success, outcome or effort? My answer is technically outcome, but so many marketers have successful outcomes against the goals they've set, but still aren't turning their businesses around. Why is that? For me, this always maps back to your goal setting. You have to set the right goals to change your business. Outcomes and effort are great, but if you're misdirected away from the right goals, you're not going to find success. You have to be aiming at the right target. So the right question is, what are your goals? And how do you map your actions to those goals? What are the right goals for your business to grow your business, not to keep it where it's at, to be safe? What are the right goals to grow your business? And how do you map your action to those goals? Not just your main goals, but the goals of utilizing every asset to improve your business. Think about each piece of your business as its own operational component. If you had to improve every single component one by one, what would the goal be for that component, and what effort would you have to bring to that to make change? Those components include things like your people. How do you make your people better, stronger, faster, smarter, and able to make decisions? What are your company assets? How do you improve your company assets performance? All the things that you own. It might be your proprietary technology, your approach to business, your actual physical assets such as buildings and signs and the websites and the social media channels. Literally, how do each of those, if you had to 10x their performance, what would you do? What goal would you set for each of those pieces of the things that you physically own? Your marketing channels, yeah, that's one that people always focus on. So yeah, let's take that in a vacuum and say, okay, these particular marketing channels, how do we make each of them more effective individually? Should we be testing new creative? Should we be playing with the mix that we're using? If we've been, using 60-70% of our efforts towards one channel, like a TV or a radio, should we try to flip that on its head for like a week, a month, to see what could actually happen when we invest in other things? I'm not talking things that have not been here. I'm talking things that are at scale right now that other people are using to grow their businesses. What would that look like? You should test it, not just in a vacuum, like put all into it for a legitimate amount of time that you can measure and see if it works. And ideas can also be an asset, a component, something that you can look at and say, how are we building a culture around ideas? How do we invest in developing better ideas? Do we need to give our team better exposure to things outside of the business? Do we need to bring in a lot of outside consultants to give us different points of view? Maybe. Yeah, I'm not talking about what you might envision as a consultant. I'm talking, think about people that are doing what you want to do in your industry. It could be a content creator that connects with your community. What are their ideas of what to do different for your business and to talk to your consumers? Bring in someone that runs Facebook better than anyone runs Facebook, and let's see what their ideas are for changing that program. Bring in someone that knows how to really change the design and structure of your physical store. Literally, bring in people to advise on all the different pieces of your business so you have better ideas all around and you're not just sourcing those core 10 people that have been put in a room together to brainstorm and come up with ideas around this entire organization where they aren't really experts in any of these things. And don't bring in just one company to give you the answers to everything. Talk to as many people as possible, because usually a lot of people have expertise in one or two things, not everything. So get as many ideas and opinions as possible and make that a core part of your process. Every quarter, talk to someone new about what they're doing and what they would do different with your business. Now, for my sports fans out there, I'll have a little analogy for you. Think about what the magic formula is to be the best team in professional sports in that particular field of sports that you like. Would you say it's to properly measure your team's game time performance? Probably not, right? Anyone can check to see what their stats are game to game, team to team, person to person, and look at the game footage of like what they did well and didn't do well. But everyone's doing that. That doesn't mean that you're going to suddenly be better because you're looking at the right metrics. The magic formula is to set the right goals for the team and for every function that contributes to the team's success. Things such as the team's mindset, the player selection, the physical training, the game time strategy, etc. And these can be applied to your business. Same thing. Who are your players? What's the strategy? What's the mindset of the team? How are we training our staff? What's the strategy day to day, month to month? It's not just about having the best players either. It helps. It's nice to have a LeBron James that can, dominate. We're not all going to get that, but you do need to have a few star players that know their roles and help lead the organization to change. If you don't have them, try to find them. A great coach is also helpful, someone that knows outside looking in how to think about your business, supporting players, people that play their roles well, aggressive training, continuously stepping up your game in each prospective field, common purpose. You have to have something that brings everyone together to actually want to drive change in your business. A principled system is important. You have to have an operational flow that makes sense so that people aren't spinning their wheels on things that aren't important, and that they know how to prioritize and really think about what things are important to drive your business, so that it's easy to get caught up in emails and following up on the fires of the day. But if you don't have a system for figuring out what you need to execute, you're going to be lost. You need to have chemistry. Chemistry is important for the teams to function well and have the right personalities that works with the right people. You have to have the right strategy every day. Every game, have reviewed what's the thing we're going to accomplish today to hit this goal today. Now let's talk a little bit more about digital. I know this is supposed to be focused on digital, and I hope it has been. I'm happy to give a simple answer on how to measure success in digital marketing specifically. The best way to measure success is to constantly and actively test new hypotheses to see how they drive your bottom line. So think about what I just said. Success isn't measuring the right things. It's to set yourself up to constantly test and improve what you're doing. And that's, again, across all these different channels that can move the organization, because there are so many variables in marketing, so many variables that you have to always be testing new things. And even your objectives and your priorities should be pressure tested. Maybe your objective this month for driving this particular product or service, or increasing this hour of productivity, or driving foot traffic at a certain time of day or a certain season. Maybe those are the wrong objectives. Maybe at a certain time of year, building your list of customers that are true fans, or your content that you're putting out that really resonates with them, maybe those should be the goals for a particular month. Maybe it's the training of the people that are actually talking to your customers. Literally every month, there might be something different that should be an objective for your business that you're not thinking of or focusing on. So even pressure testing your objectives might help bring about change in your organization. So think about it for a second. What if you were focused on product messaging, but you should have been building your email database? What if you were telling a brand story, but the customers only care that the bathrooms are clean or that your store locations are desirable and not in a weird neighborhood that's far away or hard to get to, or they feel unsafe in, for example, because that happens. What if you're telling a value story, but the customers only care that you get them, that you're culturally relevant, as they say, that you're tapped into the things that they're passionate about, or that you're connected with a celebrity that they love, they're a fan of, and they'll literally buy anything that that person sells. Or maybe that person just gives you the credit you need so that you get past that trust barrier. There's a lot of ways to go about it, but you have to think about pressure testing your objectives to think about how you can really change the business to drive success. There are a million scenarios, but the point is test your ideas with your customers, and that can help you prioritize what's important for your business. So again, for digital metrics, I would focus less on the end result, because that's you'll always have and you can measure that. But literally, I would take it back down to how do you build a situation where you can test and learn and adjust all the variables in marketing in a way that you feel is repeatable, scalable, and actionable based on the insights you pull from that. Now, I'd love to dive into some tactics to play CMO for the day for your business. Here's a priority list that I would think about if I was running a company today. Start with my owned assets. Look at what I can do to 2x or 10x the effectiveness of each of these assets in my business. Things like in my website, social profiles, online listings, archived content, things I've built in the past. Maybe they need to be brought back to life. We have all those assets. How are we using them? My email list, am I building it? Is it big enough? Am I using it actively? Am I cleaning it? Am I actually communicating with the people that I've brought in that have trusted me to have a relationship with them and to manage that? My text list, same thing. That's one that's often overlooked. How am I managing that? Is there someone dedicated to actually thinking about the strategy of growth and delivering value in that platform? And in some case, the personal brands of my top employees. Am I nurturing the people in my business, A, to want to stay, but B, to represent our company in a way that makes people interested, that says, these are the people that really know what our company is doing. And when you invest in your people, they invest back in the business. So are you developing the personal brands of your company? Number 2 thing I would do with my CMO hat on priority list is create more owned assets. What I mean is look at what other people have that you don't have in your competitive set. Do you need more new technology? Do you need new processes? Do you need new packaging? Do you need new media outlets at your disposal? Think of yourself as a media company for a second, and you'll see that there's a million new places that you could be testing today and building a footprint in while it's still growing. Or maybe there's massive areas that you haven't built a footprint in that are already hugely successful. Create content, create ownable events that people look to you and say, oh, I love that event I go to all the time. The brand X such and such event becomes a favorite, and you build community within that event space and pull them back into your brand at different points. Create news, things that are worth talking about. Create experiences, things that connect with your customers at different places besides just your place of business. Create channels, something visual, something audio, something interactive, something experiential, something visual, something they can learn from, something they can be entertained by, something they can be educated by. Just things all over the board, something they can play with, something they can share their friends with, tell stories on. Bring them in to channels that you create rather than leveraging all the doorways that the bigger media companies have created for you. Use those as doorways into your channels and then create something that's worth sticking around for. And create more intellectual property. There might be opportunities out there for you to continue to build up a portfolio of things that are unique to you that complement your business. Don't, turn yourself around for a second and think about if you were trying to iterate and build a new product that is an ownable, sellable product or service for the future and in perpetuity that you want to keep around. How would you build that? What would you build next? Not something that is a flash in the pan promotional build for a month or a week or a day, something that you plan on keeping around long term. And how do you not just build that product, how do you build assets around that product that support it and a community around it so that there are these avid fans of that product that even if it did go away for a period of time, they are asking for it as soon as it goes away or in that time of year when they hope that it comes back. Number 3 thing on my list when I have my CMO hat on that I think would help affect change in a business enough that it would matter is tell your story. Test your story, adapt your story. Tell your story, test your story, adapt your story. Tell it 100 different ways to 100 different people. Create 3 different tests for each of those different communications. If you think this sounds crazy, then you're missing the point. A brand is like a person in a lot of ways. Each person that meets you likes you or dislikes you for a different reason. And it's not because you shared your exact same story with all of them and they just interpreted it different. Literally, you meet people, and depending on that situation and experience, they're all getting a different side of you and a different flavor of you. And a brand should be like that. There should be lots of ways that they can interact with you and come into getting to know you. And at each of those experiences, there should be value. There should be a positive interaction. You should be putting your best foot forward. They may not all like you. You may not be for everyone, but they're for that core group of people where you actually provide a lot of value and it fits into their life. They should be welcomed in and communicated with in a way that works for them. So try a lot of different ways. You know, there are communities out there that are really into their passion. So if you can find ways into different passions, you can be good at what you do, but tie into their passions at the same time and find common ground. And that common ground and emotional connection start a relationship. You can be consistent with your values. I'm not saying be everything to everyone. I'm saying be consistent with your values, but your communication should be as variable and adaptive as human communication is. 4th thing I would do, engage with my community. Just like a store owner is out there shaking hands with customers and sponsoring little leagues, a brand needs to be active in engaging with their marketing programs and with their customers in the places where they like to be. Start with being responsive. Take what you're already getting from customers and actually talk to them all. Find a way to talk to them all, or as many of them as possible, or to filter in and out the things and communication that makes sense. Build a process, build a system. How many people are starting conversations with your brand or about your brand, and those are going unanswered or uninformed by your brand? If someone was talking about you as a person, you'd want to be there to be part of that conversation, or at least the person that's talking about you has such a good experience with you that they're telling the good story and pointing the people to something that you've built that talks about you. I mean, think about your social channels and all your email and other CRM campaigns. How many people have received a message from you, have responded, but not gotten an actual personalized response in a way that resonates with them? Or they got some canned bot-driven response that doesn't make sense. I've seen text programs that literally shoot back a response saying, I don't know what this is, I'm a bot. But the customer's like, take me off this list, or I hate you. And they're like, well, if you want to unsubscribe, click 7. And they're like, I hate you. They don't actually listen to what you're saying. Also, think about all the conversations that are going on in your industry, in the place of business where you specialize. People are talking about those topics typically all the time in some case, form, or way. And you could be joining the conversations and engaging and adding value about the industry. Not just the one-on-one conversations about what you're doing every day in your business, but about the broader business in general. You know, if you're a food company, the broader conversation about food. If you're a yoga instructor, the broader conversation about mindfulness and the exercise and the lifestyle. Literally every business has an industry. And I'm not talking just about the B2B side, I'm talking about the communities that love that industry. How are you engaging in the conversations that are important to that community? Even the best brands are just dipping their toes into the water on this. And I bet you can find that they're getting a lot of PR bump out of some of this interaction. If they're doing it right in a voice that's authentic to their brand with communities that care about them, you start to see these stories that trickle up and they call them viral, but really what they are is actual true engagement that people have found interesting and have become passionate about sharing with their friends. It's just the beginning for this kind of stuff. So you're not too late to really start to think about how do you really engage one-on-one and turn those one-on-one conversations into broader conversations with the customer base that you're passionate about. Fifth thing I would do to wear my CMO hat for the day, leverage connectivity between your channels and understand the role that each of them play in bringing you customers. Test those roles. What if you're using radio to push product messaging, for example, but you should be pushing email signups on radio? What if you're using email as a coupon play, but it should be a private list for event promotion? What if your website is about products and store locations, but it should be a media and content hub so people find you? They're not just getting your store location because they probably already know where you are. They're actually getting something they want to stick around with that communicates with them in a way that they're engaged and they're enjoying the thing that you brought to the table. Point is, find out what customers would be interested in from you and give it to them in fun and different ways. And again, this goes back to the testing. If you test each of these ideas creatively, even the roles and objectives of each of these approaches, you start to get creative and find that there might be something you hadn't overturned that really would have resonated with the customer. And I guess last on the list, number 6, is to actually run digital marketing, test your creatives, and optimize towards sales. It's the simple answer. It's the best answer. Sales is always the answer. The point is to run it and test it and change it. And don't just change it in little incremental ways. Make drastic different changes based on drastically different assumptions to continue to see what works. And don't just do it once or twice. Always do it. I know these aren't the answers you'd expect to hear from a simple question like how do you measure success with social media and digital marketing, but that would have been so boring. There are some best practices. You can Google it for measuring ad performance. You can talk to marketing experts, bring them in, actually talk about your business piece by piece. It's personalized to you. Get a customized answer to your business questions. But if you'd like more content, best practices, there's great minds out there that do this every day that are literally about the incremental changes in your business. But some great leaders in this space that are going to talk about the things that I just talked about. Think about your business different. Neil Patel is a great one. Social Media Examiner puts out great thought leader content on this stuff all the time. Seth Godin's been a leader in the space forever. Gary Vaynerchuk puts out a different perspective that really challenges the foundation of how we think about media. I hope you can look to this and find leaders in different ways and different perspectives in your business to actually test and try new things. I'm not saying you're going to be successful in turning your business over, but you can find ways to make changes that are bigger than the changes you've been making that lean into new hypotheses that maybe you haven't thought of yet. I hope I inspired some of you to be creative, to think differently, to start a dialogue with your teams. Share this with your team members. See if it inspires them to think differently about the business. Feel free to add your comments. I'd love to hear from you, what you think. If you have a different perspective or you want to add and share value, please do. And I'll catch you on the show. Thank you.